Welcome to this new automotive news video for Sunday, March 29, 2026. And today we're going to talk about BYD, which is facing its first real major problem as reports are starting to multiply regarding reliability issues with the onboard electronic systems in their cars, problems that are quite serious and even rather dangerous. We'll discuss Porsche, which is diversifying and investing hundreds of millions of euros in the military sector, about Stellantis, which is strengthening its partnership with its Chinese brand, Li Motor, and taking the opportunity to announce a whole bunch of new models that will be coming to Europe. And then we'll talk about Toyota, where gas-powered sports cars haven't had their last word, since the brand is working on the approval and development of several new hybrid gas engines designed for sports performance. These are the topics of this Sunday video. I hope you'll find this video interesting. If that's the case, as usual, I'm counting on you to show it by leaving a little like on this video. Subscribe for future updates or boost this one if available. That's the main way to help my channel gain visibility, and you can do it too. It's a little comment where you give your opinion about today's news. We're going to start with two news items concerning the brand BYD. There's good news and bad news. The good news, let's start with that, is that the brand has just unveiled a new SUV, the Song Ultra EV. This will be the very first SUV in the BYD lineup to benefit from the new Blade 2.0 battery. It's a battery developed by BYD, which promises impressive range and, above all, record-breaking charging times. For example, on this one, the Song Ultra EV, the battery can go from 10% to 97% charge in just 9 minutes. And we're talking about a pretty big battery here, since this one should give the SUV a range of 710 km. So, in terms of charging speed and range, this is among the best you can get right now in the electric car market. As for the engine, two versions will be offered: a 340 horsepower version and a 370 horsepower version. In terms of road handling, it benefits from ISOC's intelligent damping system, which adjusts the suspension in real time. This is to improve comfort, but especially road holding, a new technology that should allow this BYD SUV to move away from the image of heavy and sluggish SUVs. Let's put it that way, which unfortunately benefits the other SUV models of the brand. Inside, there's a 15.6-inch rotating central screen and a 26-inch head-up display projected onto the windshield. And then two system devices, which are a bit unusual on modern vehicles. The first is a compartment that can either cool or heat, capable of cooling down to -6 degrees, or heating up to 50. And the other is a bed mode, since you can flatten the front and rear seats to get a flat surface that's 1.80 meters long. The price announced by BYD is 18,229 euros, knowing that it should arrive on the European market in the coming months at much higher prices. Since between taxes and transportation fees, you should rather expect the European price to be around 36,000 to 40,000 euros. Even at that price, few can compete on range and charging time. That was the good news from BYD. Now for the less good news. Since reports are starting to multiply about more and more electronic problems with their cars, equipped with the God's Eye system, the Eye of God system, it's kind of the equivalent of Tesla's FSD. It's the system, let's say, for autonomous driving from BYD Autonomous Driving, which for now doesn't seem very reliable since there have been a lot of reports in recent weeks mentioning many reliability issues with this autonomous driving system, problems that are sometimes dangerous with sudden and uncontrolled accelerations, involuntary overtaking, speed limits sometimes several dozen kilometers per hour above the limit, and vehicle deviations. That is, the vehicle suddenly decides to turn at a place where it can't actually turn, like driving onto a median when the car thinks it's a road. Sudden and uncontrolled lane changes, problems that turn out to be quite dangerous, which are added to the issues encountered by the ADAS system. ADAS is simply the abbreviation for driver assistance systems, which apparently aren't very reliable either, since the vehicles have trouble recognizing toll booths, also have navigation problems, sometimes missing highway exits, or even refusing to take them at times. Priority with a vehicle that decides not to yield to other vehicles. So obviously, these problems don't affect all vehicles equipped with the God's Eye system. But let's just say, first of all, these problems are being reported at the wrong time. For BYD, we should remember that its sales at the start of 2026 are 30–40% lower than during the same period in 2025. So if BYD faces safety or reliability issues now, reversing the trend will be extremely difficult. It's also a serious development problem. Vehicles since the head of BYD believed that this God's Eye system would become the norm, and even become essential in the next 2 to 3 years. 2 years go by very, very quickly. And for now, the software, as we can clearly see from these testimonies, is absolutely not working perfectly. But don't worry, this problem affects not just BYD, but also competitors like Tesla, which still faces issues with its electric vehicles and autonomous driving. There may be fewer problems, but it's still not perfect. And on Ford's side, to talk about a historic brand, the company is under scrutiny from authorities after two fatal accidents involving its Blue Cruise system, which is its autonomous driving system. On a completely different topic, you should know that Porsche has just joined the list of car manufacturers who, in recent months, have diversified their activities by moving into the military and defense industries. Remember a few days ago we talked about Volkswagen, which wants to manufacture anti-missile systems for Israel, ZDF and Schaeffler, two German equipment manufacturers who are developing, for example, new hybrid engines for future tanks, or Renault, which wants to manufacture military drones. The list of companies in the automotive sector joining the military industry is growing week by week, and that's absolutely not a good sign. Porsche, for example, has just invested 100 million euros in several European startups. These startups are either developing software for the military, working on cyber defense technologies, or working on autonomous military systems that operate with artificial intelligence. Porsche explains that it sees considerable growth potential in the defense and security sectors. And that's a real opportunity for them because let's remember that their profit margins have collapsed by almost 98% in just 1 year. So Porsche is looking for anything that can bring in money. And apparently, the military industry is part of that. On Toyota's side, they believe that the sports combustion car is not dead. Indeed, Toyota is set to release a sports car in a few months that will most likely be called the Celica Sport, in reference to the old Celica models. According to Mikio Hayashi, who is the marketing manager of Gazoo Racing, that's Toyota's sports division. This new Celica Sport should be equipped with a new hybridized 4-cylinder engine, an engine that is currently under development and testing. Its displacement should be 2 liters according to the first information we have. And with a turbo, it's estimated that the maximum power of this engine could reach 600 horsepower, which is quite interesting. Toyota said that for this new Celica Sport, I'm calling it that for simplicity, even if it may not be the official name. Toyota couldn't reuse the 1.6-liter 4-cylinder engine used in sporty Yaris models because it no longer meets emission standards. This new 2-liter engine, which is actually bigger in terms of displacement, is developed to meet Euro 7 emission standards and should benefit from quite a few small technological innovations, including a shorter piston stroke, which could make the engine block more compact and ultimately lighter. That's already good news for the vehicle's sporty handling and fuel consumption. And above all, it's one of the only strategies Toyota has found to offer a hybrid engine without having to make a bigger, taller vehicle, and especially without making the total weight of this future sporty vehicle too high, so that it can still be considered a truly sporty car. To finish, let's talk about the Stellantis Automotive Group, which is intensifying its collaboration with its Chinese brand, Leapmotor. Well, it's not exactly their brand originally, it's a Chinese brand, but Stellantis distributes it in Europe. Stellantis is working hard to develop this brand in Europe. This is reflected by the opening a few days ago in Munich, the city of BMW, of a Leapmotor European Innovation Center, but also by a massive product offensive in Europe. With the arrival in the lineup by the end of 2026, going from 3 models to 6 with the arrival of the B05, a compact sedan expected in the second quarter, which will be positioned more or less against the 308 offered by Peugeot, another brand of the Stellantis group. Internal competition also comes from the B03, an electric city car expected between late 2026 and early 2027, known in China as the A05. It will have an LFP battery and is aimed to compete with the Renault 5 Electric as well as the BYD Dolphin Surf, and also the B03X, which is a raised version of the B03. It's a kind of urban SUV crossover, which is specifically aimed at competing with the Renault 4 Electric, about which Leapmotor has just released more information. It's a 4.27-meter-long vehicle, which, in terms of powertrain, offers 2 different versions, 94 horsepower or 121, in 100% electric with 2 batteries, either 39 kilowatts or 53 kilowatts, which offers a range from 403 to 500 kilometers. According to the CLTC cycle, which is a bit optimistic, you probably need to subtract 10 to 15% for the WLTP cycle. So probably, on paper, a bit more than what a Renault 4 Electric offers, both in terms of range and power. And inside, a vehicle that is technologically a bit more advanced, with larger screens and an infotainment system. Supposedly, on paper, it's more efficient and more responsive. At a price that is currently significantly lower, a base model Renault 4 is around 30,000 euros, whereas for now, the Leapmotor in China is sold for 10,900. Once again, you should expect the prices to double when it arrives in Europe, probably around 20,000 euros. So even without the CEE or electric car bonus, it would still cost less than the Renault 4 still. The Renault 4 definitely looks better. On the industrial side, Stellantis has also planned for several Leapmotor models to be manufactured in Zaragoza, Spain. This will help avoid some of the European customs duties. In some cases, this allows their electric car to qualify for bonuses. And on the technological side, Stellantis intends to reuse Leap Motors' electric car technology to develop its own electric models. Peugeot, Fiat, and Opel electric cars of future generations will be based on Leap motor technology, both for the engines and the batteries, and maybe even for the software part as well. A few months ago, Leap Motor was barely known in Europe and only offered a single model, the small T03, but now it's becoming the strategic core of Stellantis Europe. We'll see how it turns out. In the meantime, that's it for the news this Sunday. I hope you'll find the video interesting, and if that's the case, I'm counting on you to show it. As usual, by leaving a like, subscribing for future videos, and maybe even supporting my channel. Through the join button below this video, I'll see you tomorrow for the next one. Bye.